we have with us legendary, legendary, I've called this show Legends in Innerattainment, because these are not entertainers, they are not performers, they are more than that. They exceed the English language, and I want to introduce them one at a time. And fasten your seatbelt, because they can roll and I can just sit here and gloat. I have with me Kelan Phil Cohran, and I want to say hello and greet you, my brother.
Greetings to you.
All right, and then I don't know who's, I think I should have called you in order of age, but then I don't know who's older, so Oscar Brown Jr. And you know, I just don't know where to start, so I won't try to start anywhere. We were having a very lively conversation when we came on, and you were commenting on a number of things. But what I want you to comment on is the state of our culture, the state of African culture in America, in terms of the kinds of images we see, and in the performances we see, and the direction that our young people seem to be headed in. Anybody can take a bite of that and chew it as long as you please.
Well, I'll let Oscar go first. He's known internationally as one of the progenitors of African culture in this country.
All right, Oscar, you got the first.
Well, I'm not much of a prognosticator. I don't know where things are going. I know certain of the things that I see now, trends that I would like to see continued, and some I'd like to see discontinued. There seems to be a deliberate effort by the entertainment industry to deprave the deprived. They are trying to just turn our children into hoochie mamas and thugs, and they're celebrating that and offering no alternatives as far as cable or commercial television is concerned. Music, as far as a popular culture, has just pretty well been driven out of television, except for what you see on BET and MTV, and a little bit on like Jay Leno, but that's all just incidental background music. There's no genuine effort. As a consequence, when I went out to a block party last summer here in Chicago, on LaSalle and 52nd, somewhere along in there, poor black community, but they were having a ball, barbecuing and everything, and they had drawn a stage in the street, and the little children were out there putting on a show for the neighborhood, and they were all playing like Little Kim or some little thug, you know, and the mamas and daddies are all on the sideline applauding. I said, my God, we've surrendered ourselves to this. I mean, what can come of this? If you're going to have your little 8-year-old daughter being a hoochie mama, and you're applauding it, what's to come of that? If you're going to have your little 10-year-old boy playing thug and glorifying that, and bling bling and gang bang and all that stuff, well, what's to come of this? But then Coco, my friend who's a pianist, really a son to me, Coco said, well, what can the parents do? They can't boo. That's the little baby doing that.
That's right.
So now, why is the baby doing that? Because that's all the baby sees. Nobody is offering anything different. And so, as far as popular culture is concerned, church is trying to do something, you know, and school is trying to do something a little bit, but they take the music out of the schools, and particularly out of black schools. And music, I believe, is the highest form of communication there can be, spiritually, intellectually. So when they do that to us, they really do it to us. What you think?
Well, you know he said what you thinking. He reading your mind.
Yeah, I agree with all of the things you say. You know, I'm more or less disposed to look at the total cultural picture, because that's what I've been focused on since the late 50s. And when I started performing with Sun Ra, he, I guess, revved up my interest in music as a cultural vehicle. But I spent a lot of time, 60, 61, 62, 63, all those years, just studying other cultures, studying their music, studying their food, studying their clothing, their religions and things like that. And I was fortunate enough to accidentally start studying the sky. And I kept doing it, although I couldn't find anyone to study it with me. But little by little, over a period of years, all of those things came together, and I began to see how cultures operate. I began to look at everything from a cultural perspective. And now, over the years, everything that I've learned, everything that I've done, I can see where it fits on a big map called America and the last days. Because that's what I see, that we are approaching a monumental change in the life of the humans on this planet. And what has happened, the technology has brought everyone together into a single arena. And so we no longer isolated where we can do our little things that other people don't know about, you know. Everything hits the fan immediately, you know. And so with that situation, it demands a world culture. It's not a thing of choice. We have to have a language for everyone. We have to have a system of government. We have to have a whole process for living on this planet. And that's what's coming out. Now, it's like it's being born. It's like in labor.
With all due respect, Brother Kelan, that sounds exactly like what the people in Washington are saying.
Wait a minute. But
we need a new world order.
Whether they're saying it or whether they're doing it, it doesn't matter. It's just that we are one world now.
All right.
And what I'm saying is it demands a world culture. It doesn't, I mean, it's not anything you have to figure out. Now, you can go into prophecy, like we were speaking of prophecy before this came up. One of the prophecies, I guess the most prominent prophecy is Revelations, 4th chapter and 5th chapter of Revelations, where it speaks of the Lamb. And so it was my work in astronomy that I bumped into that prophecy in the sky and saw that it was talking about certain planets and certain sequences of conjunctions. And so now we are getting sequences and we're getting things that were spoken of in Revelations. We're getting other prophecies. There was a Hopi prophecy about a temple being built in the midst of the land on the borders. And there's so many prophecies. I mean, there are rows and rows of prophecy because holy men have been prophesying for generations, you know. And when they put those prophecies down, they tend to occur cyclically. So that's what we're involved in. We're involved in a grand cycle of cultural change. Everybody's culture will become a second culture, and there has to be formed a world culture. Our music has shown that we are the only people that the world is tuned up to. Our music affects every people on this planet. I mean, the little kids coming out of Robert Taylor Holmes, same ones on that platform you were talking about. Their music, since the time of W.C. Handy, when St. Louis Blues went over there and turned the Chinese people around, everybody was shocked, you know, that this race music, because in America, anything that came out of us was considered lowly. And it wasn't until they saw how it affected other people around the world, and especially the royalty of Europe, that the attitudes changed, where now we have our music, blues, and we have jazz being performed in symphony center. I can remember that they consider that a contamination, you know. However, these are only small little efforts. The real efforts has to come from the descendants of the slaves. And why is that? It's somewhat as though it was spoken of in Revelations, that the Lamb was slain to receive honor and glory and riches and power. Slain. The Lamb was slain. It means that his culture was taken away from him. He doesn't have a culture. He's walking around in confusion. He doesn't have any plan. Every household's got a different set of values. Who is that? I don't know but one people like that. The descendants of the slaves. And to me, that's the Lamb. And it says they were slain to receive riches and glory and power and all these things. And I see that the one road that we have to survival is the road that everybody has to survival. And as we pick ourselves up, we pick everybody up with us.
Well, you know, when Oscar said music is the highest form
Right.
of life. Because when you said the spiritual, you know, music, music therefore is the vehicle by which a people are both formed and transformed. Would that be accurate?
It's the language.
So that is that in part the reason why the deprived or depraved, the music of the deprived is depraved because it reduces them?
Correct.
All right.
They take out the
that.
harmony. They stop teaching it in the schools. They take out the harmony. When 35 years ago we were working with the gangs, Blackstone Rangers, those kids went to public school. They taught music in public school, so they bring it out on the street and they would form their little groups. And when we auditioned, we found tons of talent. Same thing in Gary a year later. We had auditions and had a talent contest to find talent in Gary. The talent contest was won by the Jackson 5. But the kids who came in second and the kids who came in third were good too. So there was a proliferation of music, but that's been taken out. Music, human beings are the only species of life that have music. You know, where you can create sounds that convey feelings and meanings and have a shelf life, you know, a lasting power. Human beings, the only people have that. So now when you find somebody like the Taliban or Jesse Helms who want to take music out of the schools, what's the matter with them?
But they're not for our interest in the first place.
They're dehumanizing.
We're not looking at a situation. How in the world could we be in the condition that we're in if we were in a culture that had our concern? Right. I mean, so we know that's a given that we've been from the time in the Middle Passage when we were thrown off of boats. And when the people got here and willed themselves dead on the soil because they didn't want to die in the water. You know, I mean, every step of the way there's been a pain there that is carried by all of us. I'd like to point out something if I can, because this come up in the Melanin Conference.
Was this the recent Melanin Conference?
Yeah, I think the one up in Detroit. So what I wanted to bring out was that there's something that connects us. Now we all know there's something that connects us, you know, and you can call it spirit, you can call it anything you want to, you know, but there's something that even the most ignorant ones recognize there's a connection. And so I would like to put it like this: in the plant world, like in herbs, you have what is called a root called a rhizome. And it's not really a root, it's a stem, because it gets big and it stores food to last for the long winters and things like that. But this rhizome runs all under the ground, all over everywhere. Sassafras is one, you know, and you see a sassafras tree here and a sassafras tree there and one over there, you know, and there'd be hundreds of sassafras trees, and there's one root, the rhizome. Well, you see, there's something that travels with us like the rhizome. It's underneath the surface. You can't see it. You can't take it out and clinically analyze it.
Luckily.
But it's there, and everybody recognizes it. See, if you got it. If you don't have it, there's no explanation will do. You see, and so that's a big problem, because people are trying to get us to assimilate with folks, and we have this rhizome that we're dealing with. You follow? And see, they can take that and maybe take somebody like the gangsters, you know, and have them do something negative, like going back to Superfly. Just take anybody, you know, and turn this part of this rhizome on and get some momentum, and you pull them all back down in a hole. You see?
Because they're all
hooked. The key to it, right? The key to
they're
it,
all connected.
Right, they're all connected, linked. And as one gets in and begins to magnify, another one, if he doesn't have a specific program, he gets influenced. Next thing you know, you start building. I remember from the late 80s how the rap was built up, how the negative rap was built up. I remember when it was outlawed here on the radio, you know. And I gave what you call programs of, what do you call them, contests, these talent contest. And the kids would bring all of their record players and stuff, you know, and it took them an hour to hook up. And they only had but 5 minutes to play. But anyway, they were dealing with positive things. They were talking about their community. They found a way to express themselves. And the people who control the music industry only paid for the negative. And all of that stuff that spoke about positive things was cast aside. So we are under the control of people who humiliate us by throwing money in front of fools.
I have to ask this question because it came up in a conversation I had with Malachi Thompson. Because I was talking about the control of the music industry,
Yes,
the entertainment industry. And Malachi said, we control the music.
we do.
Well, now let's get this together. The industry is controlling the music, or who gets paid for producing the kind of music the industry wants to see. But at the source, we control the music.
We control
It comes from us, it is ours,
And
and
we listen to
therefore
it.
we control what? Come on.
We
Talk to me.
control the music because they can't go anywhere. See, music, no matter what comes up, America is steeped in faddism. Whatever comes up is only going to go for so many years or so many months, you know. Then they have to replace it with something. And all of their stars who are built up with these multi-million-dollar budgets, they have to have something for them. Madonna and all of them, and you go down, P. Diddy and all of them. Everybody's got to have something to keep going in that vein, because if you get somebody new, they're going to have to publicize, and it's going to cost a lot of money. That's a star system like in Hollywood, you know, in the record game. See, all right, with all of that laid out there, they still control the artists who are the higher up you get, Shaka and all of our great stars. You know, they're in a world of intense control. And I'm sure it's not comfortable. I mean, no matter how much money they make, maybe the next
Well,
generation
I'm
can
understanding
enjoy
that they're not really making a lot of money.
They might
when
not be
everybody
now.
else gets paid, they really don't
Well, you
have
never
a lot
did
of
from
money.
records, you know, but you get it from
I
performance.
never made a nickel off a record.
You get it from performance.
Okay,
Yeah.
what?
Personal appearances.
Yeah, personal appearance. That's where you
That's
get
how
it.
you make your money.
See,
The record company is a loan shark operation
right.
that uses your
Pawn
talent
shop.
as a collateral
The
for
same as
them
a
to
pawn shop.
advance some money
Yeah.
that they will then make you pay back out of your end of the earnings.
Yeah.
And if you really make enough beyond what you have spent,
Right.
then they'll pick you back in the studio and do that again. And the only money you see is something that dribbles out to you generally. The only money I would ever see would be what they would give me to get me, sucker me into signing with them in the first place. In advance, they called it, against royalty.
yeah.
How long have you...
In the business, they always call it, if you hip, you deal with front money.
Right.
Okay.
See, and that's what, if somebody's serious, they got money in front. If they ain't, they're crooks.
What is front money?
Well, that's
In
money up
advance.
front.
It's money that they give you in advance of your earning any money.
Yeah.
And while you're in the studio, while they're trying, while they're pressing your record, while they're getting it ready, promoting it, then they'll give you an advance. And that'll enable you to accomplish that, or that'll sucker you into wanting to do that. I guess in many instances, it's not sucker. I'm just being personal when I say that.
Yeah.
'Cause I got suckered.
But whatever, you know, it's not an honorable system, you know. And the thing about it, let's get back to the control. The control is here. I'll give you an example. I control my music, and so therefore the Francophone never got out. You know, now they've got some instruments out there like it, but nobody never did my thing. And I have the control. I never let it go. I never let it go. I'm not going to let it go. The harp, people can imitate me everywhere, but to get the real thing, they got to come to me on my terms, and they don't want to do that. See, I've had people who wanted me to put the Francophone on their albums.
That's your invention, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
They wanted to put it on different albums, and guys have me going up to the day of the recording and say, "I'm sorry, Phil, we couldn't get the money," you know, because somebody somewhere cut it off, and that shows you that they all are lined up together. There's a consortium. Yeah, an evil cabal, whatever you want to call them. You know,
You can't blame them because, like, back 30 years ago,
I do blame.
you had Aretha Franklin talking about R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Talking about think. You better think about what you're trying to do to me. And you had Cat talking about war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, you know. It was blowing in the wind. It was all that. They said never again. They aren't even trying to create stars. They don't want no more Barbra Streisands and Frank Sinatras. They want little modules that they can clone, you know, and hoochie mama around as they see fit. And that's what it's about.
But it's still the artist. See, an artist comes about through pursuing their life purpose. I mean, most of the people out there now,
Say it again.
It comes about by pursuing their life purpose.
Their life purpose.
See, and that's a different situation.
Not a career, not a job.
It ain't got nothing to do with being famous. It ain't got nothing to do with making a lot of money. You know, whatever it takes to keep playing. And that's what I'm doing. See, I'm playing. I'm happy. I don't have to be famous. I don't have to be rich. I don't have to be nothing, but just alive and healthy.
I think being able to pursue
we do what we do because we can't not do that.
Anything else, right?
Okay.
See, we got to do that.
Those artists control their art. They're not going to take what I've got, my little goodie that I developed over all these years. They're not going to take that and sell some beer or some other stuff with. You know, they're going to have to come to me, and the only thing they're going to sell with this is black enlightenment.
But you are the alternative to the hoochie mama and gangster and thug.
And they're all over. They're everywhere.
So somehow your image has got to appear in popular culture.
Ours and a whole bunch of others, because all over the city. I remember seeing you at the Muntu concert, the Spirit Dance. Marvelous entertainment. That's just fantastic. Oh yeah, you got
that's right.
honored on one of those performances.
But you sang that great song.
Yeah, that's just
people are so.
People are so. That was just a terrific show. And there are other people already. You know, Jimmy Ellis will call up and come up with some dynamite. Your sons. I walk down the street and see them blowing terrific music. There are people already prepared to present what we need, but the industry denies it, and the cultural elite deny it. If you're trying to fight gang banging, they're not helping. They're
all a part of it.
You got a hole in your pocket. You're trying to prop up some kind of good society, and these people are undermining it at every place, with the youth. And unless the youth see something else, they'll continue to do that. So it behooves those people who want the city to be economically cool, politically cool, irrespective of the entertainment industry, to see to it that an alternative culture gets before the eyes and ears of our children. The people who are interested in the health of the economy in the city have to be interested in trying to cool that out.
Just from a practical economic standpoint.
That's right.
You know, without considering the number of people that you can put in jail for the kind of behavior that these people seduce young people into following. Because, you know, the prison industry is probably the major industry in this country. And as long as you can get the kind of money you can get for putting somebody behind bars, they may not want to discourage that flow of income that goes into certain coffers.
What is the permanent black underclass? You ever heard that expression?
Well, it's all of us. You know, I never thought there were classes among black people. I always thought that was an illusion. The middle class, the upper class, the whatever. We are, you know, Malcolm said, what do you call a black man with a PhD? The same name that you call the others.
There's something I'd like to add to that in that sense, because a lot of our people have had to turn their spiritual awareness very low, because there's so much pain in being spiritually sensitive to their environment. And so they turn it off, and you know, it stays off a few generations and they can't find it.
Let's get back to the passion that comes from practicing one's own culture,
it's the same
following one's life purpose.
Yes.
How young were you, Oscar, when you found out what you had to do? Because you said it wasn't a choice, that you were called to do this. You had to do this.
That's right.
Well, I started getting kicked out of college.
that was a clue.
That was a clue.
Yeah, you got some attention.
You were in college.
And
what were you going for?
I was a pre-law student at the University of Wisconsin, and I flunked everything but English composition.
Why? You didn't go to class? Because,
well, I mean, that's right. What they call flagrant neglect of classes. I didn't go.
Okay.
And I got A+ in English composition, but in botany and in Spanish and all the other stuff, I just didn't fit in. later on, and of course I felt like quite a failure during that period of time, but I did change my major from pre-law to English. And I did set out at that point to become a writer. I didn't become as dedicated, as determined at it until I had experience with it and had had some success with it. And audiences had responded to what I was doing because I was really communicating. And if I was, if I reached people, then I was encouraged to do it more. And bit by bit, it became, I came to the realization that this is what I was about. I didn't want a day gig in particular. I wanted to keep doing this.
That, right.
And I used to just pray for the chance to be myself all day long. And not have to go to work at somebody else's gig in the morning, and just give the residue of my strength to being me. And when I got to be me all day long, hot dog.
When did the music come in? Because you're writing first.
Well, I was writing music as a hobby. Girl would break my heart, and I'd write a heartbroken song.
Okay.
Oh, how I envy him. And then the kids would let me sing these at the gatherings, when we'd have a party. And the guys like Leon Ketchum, Skylark, he could sing. Sonny Brooks, Lewis Brooks, they could sing. They'd let me sing because I was a composer. And so that I got my strokes that way. And I was encouraged to do more of that. But then I took a course in English literature at Roosevelt. At Roosevelt, when it was a college way back. And that just destroyed it. They seemed to analyze all the poetry down into a game. And I lost interest in it. I just didn't feel like being bothered writing for about 5 years. And then when my first child was born, I wrote Brown Baby. To the baby. And then a few years later, I got drafted into the Army. And I had taken up the hobby of songwriting again. And in the Army, I really got serious about it because to keep from going crazy.
That's a good way. In fact, that's strange because I learned mine in the Army too. That's where I started writing.
No, you started before you got in the Army now.
I started writing in the Army.
When did you know who you were? What you needed to start doing?
I found that out in 1954, really.
Okay.
I had to move back and help my mother, who took over her brother's 4 children. Her brother and his wife had died, and she took the kids, and they were poor, and they lived in the worst neighborhood in St. Louis. And so my mother, the oldest boy was 15, so my mother asked me to come back to manage him, And when we got back there, they were living in the worst place in America, everything, the worst of everything. And they were waiting to move into Pruitt homes, which became the worst projects in America. They made a TV thing about it. But anyway, when we moved in there, they honored us as the first family to move in. And we took those people as they were moving in this new environment, and we put them into dynamic activity. And every government department out there was in our door every day trying to find out what we were doing, because we made a difference and we changed the people. And they even eventually had a rent strike, and the government relented and gave them what they demanded,
Really?
But they went to the state legislature, they became a political force and everything. And so then the politicians attacked and removed the substance people from the scene. And once that happened, the poverty collapsed back on itself, and then the kids started going out and robbing and running back in because all the homes were made together, and they would run inside, and if the police came in after them, they had people stationed up on the higher floors to shoot them. So nobody would come in, they'd go out and snatch purses at stoplights and run back in.
It's like the Casbah.
Yes, that's what it was, a Casbah. And they had to blow it up. They had to tear it down, But anyway, that taught me that you can make a difference. And little by little, it took me really 7 years. It was 1961 before I committed myself to it. But I could see that I had worked everywhere I went and really applied myself. I found that I made a difference.
But where did you study? I mean,
where did
I
study
music? Did you study? Who did you?
Oh, well, I was a child prodigy.
Okay, so you just
I won the contest when I was 5 in Oxford, Mississippi. They had a contest for the whole city. And I was 5 years old, and they say I won. I don't even remember it, you know. But they say I won the contest, and the people told my mother to give me music lessons. So she started me on piano. And we moved out of Mississippi when I was 9, and I was very fortunate to get one of the greatest teachers from Lincoln University. He was the principal of our school, and he'd take his Saturday mornings with me and worked with me in grade school. So he recommended that I go to Lincoln University Laboratory High School, where I could get access to those great music teachers. And when I got there, I found out I was the best musician in the high school, which surprised me.
Including the teachers?
Well, no, I mean a musician, you know, in the school. I didn't know that because my teacher had hit me and did everything else. I thought I was bad. You know what I mean? But when I got there, I found out I was pretty good, so they put me in the symphony when I was in sophomore. I was in the Lincoln Youth Symphony, and by junior, I think I was traveling with Dr. Fuller, where they did those workshops in the different little towns in Missouri and stuff. So I had Nathaniel F. Flowers for my teacher, you know. These were heavyweight people. But my mother wasn't going to pay for that, you know, old school. So they said I was a promising chemist, a scientist. And so she decided she would pay for that, and I became a chemistry major. And my mother and my stepfather separated, so I had to leave school for that. Now, I told you before, I had a great math teacher. He got his PhD on Einstein at 22. And my chemistry teacher was on the Manhattan Project and got his PhD from Fermi. So, you know, back in the old days, the black teachers could only teach in a couple of places. You know, so you had all the brains there in one little place. You know, and even my drama teacher, Paul, is one of the most outstanding drama teachers in the 20th century. You know, and they didn't know it until he got to Columbia, Missouri. You know, when they integrated the schools, and they snatched up the drummer, man, for Columbia. But we used to put on productions that were better than the movies there on campus at Lincoln. So all of that rich environment, I got that, you know. But I didn't have a commitment with it. See, and it's important to have a commitment with things. I knew that there was some talent. Everybody knew there was talent, you know, but it just didn't get in the slot until I decided to stop everything and go completely into self-discovery. And that was 61. When I got into that, then the stuff really started happening. I learned about the spiritual world for the first time. I saw that there were things that control us that we have no control over except to submit ourselves, you know. And so behind that, I began to tune up to these greater forces that are in my life. And they led me to places I would never go by myself. And I'm sure it made a lot of people, including my mother, thinking that I had lost my mind. But it's brought me what I have today. It's brought me music, and it's brought me a vision of where the world is and where it's going. Now, whether anybody deals with it or not, that's on them. But you know, I've seen the 20th century, and I saw it from the underbelly. And I was looking at it with a clinical mind the whole time.
Phil and I are grandfathers of two young men.
You need to talk, you need to talk about your progeny.
Right.
I mean, not only did you get this gift bestowed on you, but it flowed through you to your children, your grandchildren.
That's
talk
African.
about these children.
Yeah, well,
that's African.
Who you want to tell about first?
Icarelli and Janali.
And Tariq is the latest one.
Yes. That's right.
There was Icarelli's got a son,
that's
and he's our grandson.
Our great-grand.
We got a great-grandson together.
Wait a minute now. Who's married to whom? Who's with whom?
His son, Bobo, and my daughter, Ariga.
That's right. I remember that. And what's the child's name?
Well, Icarelli is Ariga's son and Bobo's son, and he had a son May the 8th on my birthday named Tariq.
Okay.
Janali is also there.
Janali, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's only 10 years old, so he hadn't had any children.
But he's a great mind, you know, he's coming. He's making room for him.
Yes, well, both of those are some sharp
now,
young
that
men.
was, what are the odds that the children of two legends would come together and form a union?
We met,
we
met at the Happy Medium.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
On Rush. In
1966.
In 66. Gene and I were doing a show there.
Joy 66.
Called, that's right. And owner, George Marienthal, was so pleased with George 66, and he said, you should do another show.
Yeah.
So I started having auditions for talent to find another show. So Phil came down with his band to the Artistic Heritage Ensemble,
right.
to play for me. Well, they were just too much. I mean, it was too much for the concept that I had. But he and I got to talking, and I was devoted to Paul Laurence Dunbar's poetry. I had set some to music.
Yes.
And so I started talking about Dunbar to him.
And he's devoted to Dunbar.
That's
I
right.
didn't even know Dunbar.
He didn't know Dunbar.
Oh,
I knew of him, but I didn't know anything.
Right.
I had no idea.
And so he read it, and so he liked it. He said, but I haven't got time, you know, I got to work. I can't just sit down and do this. But I was making some good notes doing George 66, so I commissioned him right there. You know.
Okay, all right.
He did a beautiful job. When he came back with this music, then the idea was trying to put it on stage,
together,
you know, so I was trying to figure out a commercial way to do it. But I was directed to go to the Board of Education, and a man named Don Menalia.
No, Serpos was first.
Was Eric
Serpos was from, see, he was more enlightened. Magnolia really wasn't an enlightened
well,
man.
I've been saying the wrong
His name
guy.
was Emil
Serpos.
And he was the one that started the music program in Chicago, the all-city band, the all-city college, all of that. That was his idea. He came from Baltimore.
And they had a grant from the federal government for a title.
ESEA.
Entitlement, And so they were able to do what they called programming for culturally deprived children. So our Dunbar production came into that. Gene and I directed. Gene costumed it, and we directed it, and put it on, took it around to the schools. Marvelous production. It was sort of bus and truck. There was a man named Benny Arnez.
Made our set and had the lights and everything, so we carried our sets and lights.
On a little truck from school to school. We do 2 shows out of school a day for the morning and the afternoon.
And then May we were in the Museum of Science and Industry for the whole month.
After they ran out of
And
schools, they took us to the Museum of Science and Industry with a 900-seat house. And
that's where all those shows started.
Right.
See, we didn't have anything except I did things with Urban Gateway, you know, individual performance, and Ella Jenkins was doing. That's all the kids had before that. But this Dunbar show opened up the whole thing now, and musicians have never come and said, well, thank you, Brother Phil or Oscar or anything else. They don't know where those jobs came from because I was sitting up in a tavern one night and said, my life is more than this, and got up and walked out. You know, I looked at the level of the people there, and I thought about the content of their minds and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to put them down. It's just that I was exposed to a greater world, and I said, I got to go into the world that I see in my mind, you know. And I got up and walked out without ever going back to get my money, anything. I said, this is a complete break. See, and people thought I was a saint because I didn't want to be in taverns. It's nothing like that. It's just that that's not the place to develop a music for our people.
Well, no, I don't know. I've been in a lot of saloons playing, making a lot of music, you know.
Say, listen, I'm in one now.
And I have never, you know, felt that that was not a place where I could at least practice what I was doing.
Well, there's a different energy there.
You're right.
That energy there is not, I won't say it's negative, but I'll say it's not conducive to enlightenment. I'll put it like that. And see, I'm dealing with a path of enlightenment. If I'm dealing with a sphere, and I'm trying to deal with the dimensions of a sphere, and I'm trying to figure out what constellation best suit these dimensions, and I'm going out checking all of the position of the planets and stuff, I haven't got time for that other kind of thing.
That other influence.
That other energy is debilitating. See, it takes you away from that. And once I met a scholar, I determined that was what I wanted to be. And that's the only way you can be a scholar, is to pursue scholarship.
You got to read a lot.
So many things, though. You are so many things, and so are you, Oscar. I mean, you all are just phenomenal in just the number of talents that you have, you know.
It's common.
Why is
it's common.
Okay, because that's African, isn't it?
That's the lamb.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm doing nothing but setting an example for my children. Because they think they know more than me. They think they better than me. so they're going to have to hump it to prove it. You understand what I'm saying? All right. But in the meantime, we know and we teach our children that they are the lamb, that there are no limitations. That's the reason I'm doing my artwork now. You know, I have to feed myself. I think people lose when they go and purchase art and go and deal with art from other people. You've got to create, you've got to keep those energies flowing, because that's the greatest thing in existence. There's nothing that can stand beside it. So therefore it should be cultivated. If you recognize it in your children, you know, you should be developing it all the time. But we come from an ignorant society. This isn't a civilization. This is something else. And so we should, if we have the understanding, put in our children the meaning of true self-discovery, because we are giants inwardly.
Well, sometimes, you know, we have to get out of the way so our children can discover themselves, because we have already decided what life we want for our children. We want them to go to school, get a, you know, the rap, get a good education so you can get a good job and live a good life. So, you know, you want to be Dr. Lawyer, Indian Chief, so forth and so on, self-sufficient, pay the mortgage, have a car, go on a cruise, you know, pay your bills. Don't be in trouble financially.
Revolutionary.
Don't go to jail. Don't have children out of wedlock. We got a whole thing going, and sometimes our children have to just cut the umbilical cord that we insist that we're going to keep attached to them.
I don't want to attach like that.
Leave us.
No, I don't want to attach like that.
No, for your father, dear. This is a mother speaking here.
Well, she didn't know.
And mothers tend to want to mother hen their
she didn't know any better.
far beyond.
Yeah, but that's the reason she does that. See, she didn't know any better. She's supposed to turn them loose the minute they get in their teens. See, you have about 10 or 12 years to train these kids and then step back out of the way. Because if you didn't do it then, you ain't going to be able to do it later. You understand? Your time is when they are little and dependent upon you. That's when you teach them. You know, now you give them the heavyweight stuff if you've established discipline in them and love, then you can give them the heavy stuff when they get in their teens, because they're going to discover that they ain't as smart as they think they are. Then they come back to you. See, but I never clipped the autonomy in any of my children. In fact, I take pride in the fact that I develop a bunch of individuals. You know, that's I made sure that's what they were at. And you know, I had a thing about rap music on VO. I'm sorry, one of the
major radio
stations,
networks.
And they asked me to defend rap music, you know, because everybody's against it. And they wanted me to defend it. I said, yeah, I'll defend it, because it is a continuation of an ancient process, and I'll defend it, yeah. But in their defense, they said it came up about going in your children's room and listen to what they listen to. I said, no, I'll leave my children alone. They listen to what they want to. They can listen to anything. But I'm paying the bill. I got to know what they're doing. I said, no, I'll talk to them. I teach them. But it's their choice, because that was the way I was raised. I came up, I had privacy. As a child, I had privacy in my room. I could put anything I want to in there, you know. And so that was the way I treated them. And I treated them also in that same manner as brothers, being able to relate to their own individual energies. If they don't want this, like when they said they didn't want to study music anymore, I said, fine. I stopped. You know, you make the decision. I'm not going to impose this on you because I know it's good for you. No, I'll let them. So when they're little, you have that chance. They look upon you more than they do to God. You can tell them anything, and you can implement any program.
Except when they're two. The terrible twos don't listen to nobody.
I got a little granddaughter named Kayla, boy. Yeah. She's trying to rule the world from 3 years old.
They got the energy. But
you need to talk about Maggie a bit, because Maggie would have been here if she had not been.
Yeah, she heard her back.
Okay.
Now Maggie, I didn't even know Maggie was that talented, until I saw her in a high school play. She was on stage at Kenwood Academy. And I'd been there 15 minutes looking at this show. I said, that sure is a talented kid. She was in costume, you know.
Okay.
And I said, that's my kid. And from that point on, you know, I was trying to encourage her toward show business. And at one point, she had decided she was going to take agriculture. She enrolled at the University of Illinois as an actress. She was going to feed the world.
Okay, that sounds like Maggie.
She came home for summer vacation, and I was involved in doing a show called Great Nitty Gritty.
Okay.
And Maggie got involved in helping me with that, not in directing it, but also performing. And turned out she was a dynamite performer. She could sing. And bit by bit, she quit University of Illinois, enrolled at Columbia College, and started studying, show business in various aspects. Got a job with a union for scenic artists, and developed her own one-woman show, and began to take that around all over.
I remember.
And now she's just a fantastic performer. We've started performing together. She's going to be out on the lake at 64th and Lakeshore Drive at the Jackson Harbor Grill this summer, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it. Brother Phil, you down there, the Ethiopian?
I'd like to say this. I'm at the Ethiopian Cafe. We've been saying that for nobody comes south. The South people don't go there. But I want to say this about Maggie because,
we got 5 minutes, so say
all
what
right,
you're going to say about Maggie.
My whole thing is about Maggie because I said she's the greatest performer out there now.
Well, now look at that.
I ain't going to say that she's better than her father, but I'm saying that she's got more tools and she can do more with what she's got.
Right.
And then she's got what he has too.
Okay.
See? So I'm saying that she's the greatest singer performer that I know of that I've been exposed to. Now, if there's somebody better, there has to be somebody that I ain't never heard of, I ain't never seen.
All right.
Because she's got it, and she keeps developing it. She's going to be even better. She's just like Oscar. He gets better and better.
Does she also compose?
No.
Okay, who did the pieces on From My Window?
I did.
Oscar. You composed all of those
Oscar,
songs?
And Bobo and my son.
See?
And your son.
See, that people don't recognize it. You don't recognize how great these people are. See?
Awesome.
Actually,
it's hard for us to accept
Phil,
our positions.
Most of this, people compliment me a lot, but only about maybe 10% of what I've done has ever been shown.
Ain't that something?
Well, where's the other 90%? In the archives?
Yeah, no, in the drawer.
I have to tell you
I
this.
have plays and
Yours is better than mine, Oscar. Nobody plays my music. But everybody plays a prototype of my music.
And a whole lot of musicians have come through him.
Yes.
Who have done, Satterfield, the Earth, Wind and Fire, Don Myrick. And when I first met him, these were the band. Master Henry Gibson, who made a whole bunch of stuff with
but see, none of my songs are out there. I got one song with Sunrod. No, 2 songs with Sunrod, that Motherhood and Dorothy's Dance. That's out there. And Unity was selling from my first album all over Europe. And I didn't find out about it until about 2 years ago.
Well, I meditate to African skies.
Yeah.
That's just...
Well, what you was talking about, that performing, writing, composition, is the most difficult thing for anybody to do in any age, anywhere, in any country, amongst any people. The most difficult thing is to compose a song that people relate to. And you see, you're looking at 2 people to do that. And folks don't understand the difference. When there's no Oscar Brown and no Phil Cohran, the level of composition, I would like you to check it out.
Well, I hope I might be able to be here long enough to see some more compositions.
But I'm saying that it's not an easy thing. See, what convinced me was in 1950, I was down there with the Peacock Records, and they wanted me to write arrangements for all these blues singers, see? And so I said, well, when I got drafted, I said, I'm going to become a composer. So I started studying right there. And I started writing and working. And then because I had it in my mind, then they sent me to the Naval School of Music. So everything in my life, once you put your mind in a direction, everything becomes available.
Well, now we have to put our minds in the direction of time.
Getting out of here.
Because we have a minute. And I tell you, I have never enjoyed, I wish we could have had all the pre-program banter that we exchanged, and I know you all going to be talking out there.
No, you're going to get us
in the
I got to go to gigs. I got a job.
I got to work. Well, that's the reason why we're in the studio this early, so because you weren't ever going to be able to come, because you always got to go somewhere and work.
Mouthing off. That's why we're in the position we're in today.
Right. That's it. That's it. They said, Phil, just play the music. Don't send nothing. Just play. I can't do it.
No.
The music doesn't have any meaning unless I explain what it is.
I understand.
And
You're
the
a
explanation
teacher.
is painful.
You are both teachers. You know, you're not just musicians. You're not just composers. You're not just any of those things.
I'm going to be a television personality.
Are you?
Yes, I'm going to have an afternoon show on Channel 25.
That's great.
How soon?
That's great.
Next month, June.
Anytime.
Very good.
Yeah, that's
we look
great.
forward to it.
Talking to senior citizens.
All
You know,
right.
I'm
It's
the
just
senior, you know, I'm the senior of the year.
You are. Let me congratulate you. They made a good choice. Of course, they shouldn't consider us seniors yet.
I'm trying to get senior.
Yeah, we don't want to be seniors, Oscar.
But I've been junior part of my
Yeah, they want, you know, people, I've sat on the stage performing, and they made different people, what do you call them, elders? And they made everybody in the community an elder but me, and I'm older than all of them put together.
And now a poem from Oscar Brown Jr., Grace of God.
In the sluggish sleep of slaves, from your cradles to your graves, you live ignorant of your great power and where it's gotten from. But the minute you awake, this whole planet Earth will shake to your rhythmic, cosmic drum. Everything in all creation has its own distinct vibration that keeps moving to a universal measure we call time. As these movements then repeat, it's their time to which they beat, for time is the force sublime. Any life that ever lived came in time, wrapped as a gift to be either used up well or else allowed to go to waste. None knows how long time will last, but we all know once it's past, time can never be replaced. Any present time provides. Time itself also divides into regulated segments, seconds, minutes, hours, days, into weeks, months, seasons, years, to which every age appears, each in its decided space. So, as nature runs its course, time has been its moving force, and although sometime may seem to lag, while other time has leapt, as it's moved along its way, no time has been made to stay, just its rhythm has been kept. Now, a rhythm seems to last like a shadow time is cast, like the visible remains of some invisible events. The more any rhythm swings, the more energy it brings, the more power it represents. Of course, people who can call upon rhythm best of all are you relatives of Africa, where human life began. No one else of any race has the necessary grace to keep time the way you can. Time which you translate to dance and to music, to entrance and engage the human spirit in activity so fine that you shouldn't find it odd if it's called the grace of God, for indeed it is divine. To take time and make it swing is so valuable a thing, it cannot be bought nor sold for any specified amount. Call it destiny or fate. It's your gift, at any rate, that you suffer to discount. You still hear the old echo of a time you won't let go, when black bodies, minds, and souls were being held with whips and chains, but the chains have gone to rust. The whips have turned to dust. Just their memory remains. Like a nightmare you might dream, with a foul, recurring theme that will vanish into nothing once you waken from your sleep. Then, as you enjoy your gift, every heart will get a lift from the moving time you keep. You who God has graced to swing must lift every voice and sing, sending images to satellites, from whence they will rebound to paint entertaining scenes upon television screens for all people, world around. With the grace of God you've got, you need never fire a shot to create a mighty force, too powerful to be withstood. It's your legacy from birth, to be used for all it's worth, to do the world some good.